Hey, this is Russell, and I work at the video store, the place that we can go to every week when it's movie night. On days like today, when the store is quiet, I get to chat to my friends about the films and the series that we're loving. All right, let's do it. Let's open up the shop.
Did you see that thing yesterday on the TV? It was ready, interesting!
How's it, guys?
Good morning, Russell.
Hello.
How you guys doing?
Good and yourself?
Good.
I'm lekker, man.
Nice.
I'm very good. Welcome to the video store. Thank you for wandering in to our lovely video store. It's a little quiet now.
Yes.
So this is a chance for the three of us to have a little chat and to catch up about all the movies and the series that we've watched this last week. We have ourselves a G-Force,
Hello.
who is an editor
That's right.
and also very much the producer of this show. His name is Graeme.
Hi.
And
It's
then we've
not
got
G-Force on his birth certificate.
we've got ourselves a Perrin,
Hello.
a P-Dog.
Yep.
A P-Dog in the morning.
Yeah, we're going with that, I remember.
We have to sort of build on that. Perrin, you a writer, you're a videographer, director, and editor.
Yeah, I do a bit of everything these
you're a
days.
little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And myself, I am Russell, and I am the owner of The Bioscope,
Yes.
which is an
of course.
independent cinema here in Johannesburg. So that'll explain why I talk a lot about The Bioscope.
Yeah.
And so, this is the week before the marriage,
Nice.
the big marriage.
Congrats.
It's coming up this weekend.
Yeah.
Sadly, I can't see you there,
No.
Graham. Cole's away, but Gaddy will be there, and Perrin is going to show up to the wedding, which is great. I'll have some of my movie nerds there.
Yes.
But because of that and the honeymoon, which will happen shortly thereafter, we're going to take ourselves a break next week.
Cool.
But just know that we love you and that the video store is going nowhere. It's just closed for a week.
Yes.
All right.
Yay. Cool.
But before we go anywhere, I want to make just a quick announcement for all those that are browsing the shelf. Attention all customers, this is to let you know that the Horror Fest is here. It is going to be happening from the 30th of October to the 10th of November, but sadly only in Cape Town. It's going to be at the Labia. You can get your tickets at quicket.co.za or horrorfest.info. They've got lots going on, and it's a great festival that happens every year, and especially for all those who love film and love spooky season, it'll be taking place at the Labia Theatre, as I said, in Cape Town. We've had ourselves for me, it was quite a busy week last week. I went to 3 premieres, or 3 screenings, which I want to talk about. One of which I can't speak too much about because it was an exhibitor screening. So this is something that comes long before the press or the media screenings. And I got a chance to watch Gladiator 2.
Cool.
Very cool.
Which is the big our summer blockbuster, America's winter blockbuster.
Yes.
But that's coming out on the 15th of November in cinemas around the world. We got invited to Goodridge, which is the smaller, I don't want to call it an art house film, but it's a smaller drama comedy.
Okay. Cool.
Dramedy.
Michael Keaton, right?
Michael Keaton, which I want to. That was the surprise hit for me of the week, and I want to get into that. Then myself and G-Force went on a mandate, and we watched the last Venom movie.
Yes.
The final of the trilogy.
I have a lot to say about that.
Oh, good. Yeah, no, it'll be good to chat about that.
I'm sweating already, jeez.
And something we thought we could do, if Perrin is still up for it, is because we are in spooky season.
Yes.
And this is the week of Halloween. Perrin will always do his best to do a shift where he gives a list.
Yeah.
Perrin is a list guy.
Yeah.
Which is what I love. Many things I love about you. One of which is you make lists of movies.
Yeah.
And you were doing them long before you started working at the video store, which is why you got hired.
Yeah, for sure.
And so we're going to do a list of what, Perrin?
So it's horror movies you can watch in the final week of spooky season.
Okay.
But what we have available, what's available to pull off the shelf at the store. Because sometimes all the classics are pulled out. So I'm going to give you a little stuff that you may have missed.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Lovely. Okay, looking forward to that. And then we'll touch on some TV.
Yeah.
Because there's some good TV that is out there.
Maybe I'll recommend some spooky video games.
Oh.
Because I love horror
a
video
good
games.
Yeah.
Let's have Graham be more the gaming guy.
Cool.
Yeah.
Because if you're old enough to have gone to video stores,
Yes.
you're old enough to remember that you could rent
You could rent video games.
games from the video
Back
store.
when they came on discs.
Yeah, I remember when it was on the PS1, we would
yes.
always rent Tekken 2.
Right.
And we would always race through the whole day to like unlock every character. And this is before we realized, you just buy a memory card and you
Yes.
can save your progress. So
Yeah.
every time we buy it again, it was like
was
like
there-
playing the Lion King game where you'd have
Oh,
to start from
Lord.
scratch every
Yeah.
time you die.
Was it a good way to like test a game? Because I'm sure at some
Yeah,
point,
kind of.
if you were constantly renting, I'm sure the
Yes.
guy at the video store was like, "Dude, don't you want to just buy the
buy
game?"
it already.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was a nice way to like trial a game.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I know with a lot of those old classic games, like so the notoriously hard games, like the Lion Kings, the Aladdins, all those, they apparently developers purposely made them so difficult that
Yeah.
every time you die, so there would be no save mode. So every time you
Yes.
die, you would start from the very beginning.
I remember that I had a Game Boy, and I
Yes.
remember Lion King on Game Boy was very frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like that was apparently a marketing ploy for kids when they wanted to rent games. They would just keep on renting it, or they would just buy it
Buy it
because
eventually, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
The evil
And
bastards.
that even goes back to like arcade days when they
Yeah.
made games incredibly hard in arcades.
exactly,
So you have
yeah.
to keep putting,
Continue 30 seconds.
keep putting coins in.
Yeah, 100%.
The house always wins.
Right?
Yeah, 100%. Bastards. Fucking nerds.
But let's do a little catch up.
Yes.
Let's do a little round of Hey, did you guys see? Just to talk about some of the latest little news of the last week.
Let's do that.
Who wants to kick it off?
I can start. Hey, did you guys see? I actually wanted to talk about this last week, but I forgot. The trailer for Dune Prophecy.
Oh, yeah, it looks great, man.
Dune of Thrones.
Oh,
Is
yeah.
that,
Dune
is
of
that something?
Thrones.
Is that anything?
That could be something.
Yeah.
That's quite witty.
Nah,
well
that's,
done.
call HBO right now. I
This
don't know why
is-
they didn't do
Rename
that.
it.
Yeah.
This is Dune,
Yes.
the famous book
Yeah.
series, most recently done into 2 films.
Yeah.
But this is the TV show.
Yeah.
It's a prequel.
That's set, yeah, like I think like
Thousands
thousands
of
of
years,
years.
yeah.
I think it's about the like origins of the Bene Gesserit.
Okay, yeah.
Gee,
because-
so it goes back, eh?
Yeah.
So this has got nothing to do with Paul Atreides.
No, none of the
and-
same characters. It's way, way, way before
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I think that's good because they had to kind of not compare themselves to Villeneuve's like latest films.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
wonder how close to, because I know in Dune, correct me if I'm wrong, but like the reason why they don't use computers and stuff is because they had a war with AI.
Yes, there was like an AI war.
Yeah,
and AI
so
was outlawed.
I wonder how close it is to that, because I know the Ben Gesserit came after that.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's an interesting
Yeah,
question.
I think a lot of the Dune world building was very complicated, and when you read the book,
Yeah.
like the first one,
Yeah.
like Dune, they don't really hold your hand through it.
No.
And there's a couple of parts of it, things like that, as you
Yes.
said.
Yeah.
This is a world so far in the future that they don't use computers,
Yeah.
and they rely on the
Spice. Yeah.
spice.
Yeah.
We're now going to build the whole world of Dune, but they rely on this spice, which is only available on this planet, because that spice gives them the
Ability to see like
mental
paths.
cognitive
Yeah.
ability to navigate space.
Yes.
So all of a sudden it becomes the most valuable thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Bene Gesserit were these like witches in a way of
Yeah.
that sort of galaxy, of this world. But they are a little bit Illuminati at the same time. So
Yes.
they've
Yeah,
been
they
they've
control a
been
bit of everything.
planning who marries who and who
Yeah,
gives
like-
birth to who, and
Directing genetic lines to kind of try
so
and
they're
create
very okay.
control.
And what did you think of the trailer?
I think it looks pretty good. I
think
like
it
the
looks great,
cast.
Yeah.
Emily Mortimer, Mark Strong is in it. I didn't even really know that. I love Mark Strong.
Whoa. I didn't
Oh.
know
Who's
that.
Mark Strong?
He's a British actor.
Bald
He's
guy.
bald dude. He's in the Kingsman movies.
Oh, yeah, that guy.
He's,
Yeah, yeah.
okay,
Yeah,
you
he's
know what I'm talking about.
Carmine Falcone now in.
Oh
Penguin.
yes, he's in the
Yeah.
show. It's
Yeah,
not
he replaced John Turturro.
John Turturro. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, it looks good.
It looks really good. Yeah.
Hey, did you guys see? We have apparently a bit more information on Christopher Nolan's next film.
Yes.
It is rumored,
Mm-hmm.
emphasis on rumored, to be a 1920s
That's what I saw
period
as well.
horror about vampires.
What?
with Matt Damon and Tom Holland
Yes, that
expected to star.
that I had heard. I had not heard the vampire thing. I
That's
had heard
what I
it was
heard.
like a espionage spy movie thing.
Just
What?
with vampires.
Maybe
Actually, that, would be pretty
cool.
cool. That'd be very cool.
James Bond with vampires. I'd watch that.
So so like the only reason why I'm like kind of about that idea is because Robert Eggers is doing Nosferatu now.
Yes.
So I don't
Yeah.
need, I don't need an overflow of 1900s vampire movies.
Well,
But
two will hopefully be enough room in your brain.
Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, I think
Also, they would be very different coming from those two guys.
Yeah, so that'd be cool because then we get to see Nolan tackle a new genre, which
Yeah.
will be very cool.
Because he has kind of done the 1920s, that sort of more period stuff with the Prestige, right?
Yeah, that was
Yes.
18
Yeah,
late
that was like
1800s.
late
yeah.
1800s.
But I mean, it's that world, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel like decade after decade, and at that time, we're kind of a little bit similar.
Yeah, and his genre
Things sped up when like the computer arrived.
Yeah, his genre is as action thrillers, and I mean most recently like a biographical drama. So horror would be very, very interesting, and it'd be
Well-
interesting to see if he can actually pull it off because he might not be good at it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sci-fi obviously does
And
a
it's
lot of.
it's also it is being made with Universal, same as
Yeah, apparently Warner Bros. Threw money at it. Like,
they
please come back.
apparently wrote him quite a big check, which
he
was
said
money he
no.
was already owed for
Yeah.
Tenet.
Yeah.
They were like, here's the money we owe you. Maybe you should come back. And he was like, thank you, I'll take that. So Universal, let's
Yeah.
make a movie.
Well, I mean,
Interesting.
yeah,
Because he has always been a Warner Brothers.
Yeah, up
Brother.
until
Yeah.
because of Tenet, because they put it on streaming day one.
yeah, they
He was like,
I was about to say, why did they owe him lots of money?
I think it was just like
Promises
residuals
went-
and
yeah.
I think just
Okay.
there's
Yeah,
always
the-
these additional things based on like box office and that sort of thing.
But
that they're owed.
like Villeneuve had the same issues with Dune.
Yeah.
like he was really upset that I remember was cinema theatrical release and streaming on the same day.
Yeah.
and that affected its outcome. I mean, obviously, I don't blame Warner Brothers for thinking this is the best way to do it because of COVID.
yeah.
Oh, this is the first June when it. came
Yeah,
out.
it was during the pandemic, but it
I think
was.
that there was a problem with it, especially with so Legendary was the studio
Yeah.
behind
Dune.
Dune. They also did do the Godzilla, like,
Yeah,
King
yeah,
Kong
yeah.
movies,
Yeah.
and they put a bunch of those straight to streaming, but without even like
Consulting,
consulting
yeah.
Legendary about it at all. They're like, we're the distributors, we're just putting it on streaming. It'll completely fuck the box office. We don't care.
And it's the filmmakers that they would, especially Villeneuve and Nolan, who
Yeah.
are all about the cinematic experience. So when you tell them, oh, it's only going to streaming, of course they're going to be like, no, what the hell?
Yes.
Like,
They didn't make this movie for that.
yeah, you know. So yeah,
Interesting.
And also something else is right now that Chris Nolan's movie and Spider-Man 4 are both set for the same date.
yes, yeah, in 2025.
So one of them is
yeah.
going to have to move because I think the studios will probably stick with Nolan, and especially for the IMAX screens.
Well, especially if they both have the same fucking actor
yeah,
in
they
them.
both
Yeah.
have the same lead.
Well,
Tom
the-
Holland.
That's one thing that I'm excited. I'm like actually happy for Tom Holland because the problem with being hooked by the MCU world, especially when it was in its height, is that a lot of those actors struggle to break away from that.
Sure.
Even if they're established, like Robert Downey Jr. was only doing Iron Man.
Yeah.
So like when
He was being kept busy. Like,
Yeah.
just literally kept busy.
So that's why when he did Oppenheimer, and it was such a it was a great it was a genuinely Oscar-worthy performance because he was finally playing a role that was different to what he's been accustomed to now for the past
Yeah.
15 years.
Yeah.
No, it's a little bit like being in a TV show. It's like you get very stuck in a character.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. So like it was nice to see him return to, because Robert Downey Jr. before Iron Man was an accomplished actor, like respected.
Yeah.
Sure.
He was fucking awesome. I mean, yeah. But
Do you guys know the actor Tom Hollander?
No.
British
know that
actor.
name, yeah.
This dude.
yes, yeah.
So he has the same representation as Tom Holland.
He made a
Okay,
mistake.
yes, they did once. He once got this notification. He had this like massive amount of money put
Oh,
into his
wow.
account, and he was
my
like,
God.
"That's all right." They accidentally sent him
The Spider-Man money.
one of Tom Holland's like bonus checks for the box office of Avengers, and he was like, "This one bonus was more money than I've made in my entire life."
That's
it
crazy.
was like millions of dollars.
Jeez, like
Just imagine the sting of having to give that back.
Sorry.
Either that, or it's like, I'm sorry, this isn't Tom Hollander.
Or just knowing this like 24-year-old kid.
Speaking of English. Just a donk.
Just
put down the phone.
knowing that this 24-year-old kid is making more money on bonus checks than you're making
insane.
your entire life. It's got to be.
No, it's silly money, but
Yeah, but good for him, man.
Yeah.
Like he's a good dude as well. What I like.
seems
so,
like a nice guy.
Yeah, so it's nice. Hey, did you guys see that Blade has been pulled from Disney's release schedule? So that likely means it's dead in the water.
Yeah.
Probably is, yeah.
Yeah.
if they use the word indefinitely,
Yeah.
Yeah.
then it's emphasis on definitely.
Well, I mean, they've gone through how many directors now? I think like
At least 3.
Yeah, they've all pulled out from what I gather, creative differences.
Yes.
And I don't know if that stems from the script or from the just studio execs.
But what? Just to paint the picture for folks,
Yeah.
what was this going to be?
So Mahershala Ali was going to be Blade, right?
Yeah.
He was the lead. I think Natasha Lyonne was attached to star. Mia Goth was going to be in it as well.
Okay.
This is to reboot Blade, which is the famous comic
Yeah,
book.
to integrate it into current MCU, right?
Yeah.
But
Because that all came before the Iron Mans and the
Yeah.
Thors.
that
and
was
the
officially
Hawkeyes and
considered the
Scar-
first Marvel MCU.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it
It's the
starred
first
We-
R-rated Marvel movie.
Yes.
and it
Definitely.
starred Wesley Snipes, and
Yeah.
it actually did pretty well at the time.
No, it's it became a cult hit as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, apparently Mahershala Ali was never happy with the screenplay. So either with Mahershala Ali, though, he is also, like Robert Downey Jr., a respected actor.
Yeah.
Like he's
he's
a 2-time Oscar winner. You
Yeah.
know, he is a proper actor. He's a thespian. So, like, I think the screenplays are probably dog shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then
And
yeah,
he
just
wants
let
it
it
to be
die.
better.
Let it die.
I think. And,
And
I
then you can
mean,
rebuild it
Yeah.
from like take expectations to 0
Yeah.
so that they can only be built up from here.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it's almost like it's a good foreshadowing was in Deadpool 2 when
yes.
spoilers.
Yeah.
Sorry, skip. Wesley Snipes, when he pops up as Blade, he
Yeah.
even says he's like, "And I'll be the only one," or
Yeah.
something like that.
You mean
and
it,
the
that was in
audience-
Deadpool and Wolverine?
Yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
Deadpool and Wolverine, and he was like, "Yeah, and I will be the only one," and the audience was like, "Ooh, damn!"
Yeah.
So like, I think it's almost like foreshadowing that he was like, "Yeah, don't fucking touch this."
Maybe
So,
someone
yeah.
behind the scenes is really fighting to make Blade British. Because he's British in the comic books.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, jinx.
He's British.
crazy.
They've done that a few times. Constantine as well, the character that
Oh,
Keanu
yeah,
Reeves
he's-
played, is British.
Oh, so he's not. Whoa,
Yeah.
dude.
The character is actually based on
Yeah, I
Sting.
know that. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that's
He's more.
that makes
he's
sense.
More,
Yeah.
He's more. Oh golly.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, I would have loved to have seen Keanu Reeves do his Victorian Dracula accent for Constantine.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, hello, governor.
I need to still watch that.
Oh.
Hey. Do you know that's one of my big like? I can't believe
Yeah.
you haven't seen.
Oh, really?
I haven't seen Bram Stoker's
Coppola's-
Dracula.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
Coppola's
very
take on
messy.
Dracula.
Where Keanu Reeves very famously has a dog shit.
Yes.
It's
Look,
British
it's a
accent.
movie of bad accents.
It's probably
but he's
the
worst
worst.
of a bad bunch.
I think it might be one of the worst movie accents I've ever heard. Like, it's so bad, and like, it's just awful. It's not the worst casting I've ever seen. The worst casting of all time is John Wayne playing Genghis fucking Khan.
Oh, wow.
Hey there, Pilgrim. Yeah, he's Genghis fucking Khan.
What was the movie?
I can't remember the name.
I
It was
can't
called The
remember what it was
Conqueror or something. It was from the 50s, and it's just awful. It's one of those, like, so bad. It's like an anomaly. You have to, like, watch it because it's so bafflingly awful. Like, how did this...
They just pumped those movies out at some point.
Yeah.
Hey, did you guys see that Luca Guadagnino?
Yeah.
Is that how we pronounce his name?
Ciao. Yeah, it is. Luca Guadagnino. Yeah.
Guadagnino is set to direct a new adaptation of the book American Psycho.
I'm actually... What do you feel about that? Let's get your opinion.
I am also going to admit, I haven't watched the whole of the American Psycho movie.
Really?
There was a point in my life where I was like, this is a movie I need to watch.
Yeah.
And I started it. I think I maybe
So
watched
good.
it, but I was too young.
Yeah.
It was like
To get it,
Varsity. I
yeah.
don't even know
Okay.
whether I finished it. I need to watch American Psycho again.
Same.
I can't bring myself to read the
fucking
book.
good. Yeah, so I
Have
heard...
any of you guys read the book?
I've got the
No.
book. It's on my TBR to be read. It's on my bookshelf. I'm probably going to read it after what I'm reading right now.
Okay.
Apparently the book's more fucked up.
Yeah.
I've also heard the book's a little bit of a slog.
Oh, really?
Like there's long stretches where it's kind of like really boring, routine nonsense, and then it's like punctuated by like moments of like
that actually
super violence.
But that makes sense because the movie he talks about routine.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
Yes.
like a lot. So the movie, what I love about that movie, I mean, I need to read the book to actually compare it to the Christian Bale film.
Yeah.
But I think it's very cool that that movie was directed by a female.
I was
Yes.
literally just about to bring
So
that up.
that
If you hadn't brought that up
affects-
in that one beat,
Yeah.
I was going to chime in and go, it was directed by a woman.
Yeah, so but American Psycho the film is one of my favorite movies of the 2000s. It's Christian Bale should have been nominated for an Oscar for it. It is one of the funniest movies of the 2000s as well.
Yeah.
Like it's I wouldn't say it's a straight horror. It's a satire. It is satire.
But-
it's a
but
horror
that-
comedy. It's so fucking
That's
good.
why I phrased it
It's
the
very
way
dark horror comedy.
That's why I phrased it the way I did, which was not that there's going to be a remake of the movie.
Yeah, it's a
It was
new
like, It's a
interpretation.
new adaptation of the book.
Yeah.
So I think we're allowed to do that. We will always compare the adaptations.
Yeah, of course.
But
Yeah.
maybe he will bring something new to it. He's got a queerness.
So
to him,
yeah,
right?
so he is gay.
he is a
He's a
queer
gay filmmaker, right? So like that's one thing that I'm interested in seeing is that Luca Guadagnino very rarely misses. I haven't seen one bad movie by him. I think he's one of the great filmmakers working today. I think he's a very sensual filmmaker.
sensual.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
just his Suspiria remake is better than the original in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see him. He's not scripting it, but one project that I'm really bummed that didn't go through is the Coen brothers were doing a remake of Scarface, and he was going to direct.
Oh.
They were
They were
going to
gonna
write
write
it,
it.
and he was going to direct. That would have been
Interesting.
fucking
A remake
crazy.
of Scarface.
Yeah, that'll be the third remake. Yeah,
Interesting.
second remake too. Yeah,
Because like the famous Scarface is itself a remake.
yeah,
I think a lot of
exactly.
people don't,
Yeah, the
Oh, I
Brian De
didn't
Palma
know that.
one. Yeah, the first one is I think it was done in the 1930s.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like A Star Is Born. There's
Yeah.
like there's like a
Exactly.
whole
There's
tradition
There's four.
of them. Yeah.
Yes.
Anyone else got one? I got one more last little one.
I've got
Yeah.
a Whittle one.
I
You
got a
can go.
Whittle one. Hey, did you guys see the trailer for Love Hurts?
No.
So this is a movie with Kihei Kwan.
Yeah, Kwan.
He
Oh,
plays
cool.
a real estate agent / former hitman
Oh god.
Oh, cool.
who's like brought
Spoilers.
back into being.
I hate the fucking hitman thing. Do you know what I mean? It's like glorifying this like weird job that kind of does and kind
Yeah.
of doesn't exist.
Except for the
Yes.
movie Hitman. I fucking
Yeah.
love
Well, that was the
Hitman.
best because they
Yeah.
made fun of the joke
Yeah, it was
Yes.
great.
that all these kind of movies involve assassons and hitmen.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, this is clearly very much a comedy, like action comedy.
So sorry, say that again. He's a real estate agent
Yes, who used to be a
who
hitman,
used to be a hitman.
and now
And his-
events are.
his previous life is coming back
Yes.
to haunt him.
It seems like he helped someone like fake their death basically and
Okay.
get out of it, and now they found out about this. The people who,
If he can play the sort of bumbling
yeah,
guy
I
that
love
still
Ki-Hugh
has
Kwan.
martial arts
Exactly.
prowess, which is what was so good about Everything Everywhere All
Yeah.
at Once, then this will be a good movie.
exactly.
I love Ki-Hugh Kwan.
Yeah.
He's just an absolute treasure. He's a lovely
Listening
man.
to that bro's story is
Yeah.
fucking astounding.
Yeah.
Like a podcast interview, if you can catch any podcast interview that delves into his life,
Yeah.
bro was in like a concentration camp.
No, he
As a kid,
yeah,
yeah.
he's,
He spent
he's
years-
Vietnamese, right?
What's that?
He's Vietnamese, yeah.
He spent years in like basically a concentration camp.
Yeah, refugee camp.
Like
yeah.
a refugee camp, sort of separated from family, and fuck, it's astounding.
It's just crazy that like because
And then he was this huge Hollywood star.
Yeah.
yeah,
at
a
very
child
young
star,
age.
yeah, and
so it's like
then,
what
yeah.
a whirlwind of a life.
Yeah.
Because people also forget that when he disappeared from after the success of Goonies and Indiana Jones
Yeah.
and stuff like that, is that he was a stunt coordinator and a
Yes.
very successful one at
Yeah.
that too.
Yeah.
So like it's so nice to see him coming back. And like one of my favorite stories is how him and Spielberg still keep in contact. Like
Yes.
Spielberg still sends him Christmas cards
Yeah.
every year, and I think it's so sweet and
Yes.
heartwarming.
Yeah.
And like people were
yeah.
when he kind of came back and he was like, well, the reason you haven't seen me is because I just wasn't getting jobs. Nobody
Yeah.
would hire me. People were like, hey, Spielberg, why don't you help this guy out?
Yeah.
And he was like, he did twice.
Yeah.
He gave me the roles in Indiana Jones and The Goonies. Like, what more is he supposed to do?
Yeah, exactly.
At some point, it stops being his responsibility.
But it also becomes a case of like that's where one thing I also wonder where like directors are working closely with one actor for a while. You know, like you look at Paul Thomas Anderson with Daniel Day-Lewis or
Yes.
Joaquin Phoenix or whatever, and then they stop working with them. Is it a case of it? A lot of the times it's just a case of literally like, this role doesn't suit you.
yes.
No, of
It's
course.
not like I don't hate you. It's just
Yeah.
I'll never
it's like
forget.
Scorsese with DiCaprio.
Yeah.
like you know?
I'll never forget being in the school plays
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
in high school, and this woman who did the plays each year was a lovely, dynamic woman who basically just gave up her time. I think she had a history or an involvement in theatre in South Africa, and said, "My give back is I'm going to do Bryanston High's major production every year." But she said something once where she was like, "I could act the pants off Pamela Anderson, but I'm not going to get cast in Baywatch." And I was like, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it, lady. It's like you just might not be the fucking right person for the role. And I remember even just at 16 hearing that, going like, oh, I think I needed to hear that.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
that's really important.
Yeah.
That no one should ever take it the wrong way, even with jobs.
Yeah.
If you're just not the right fit, you could be so qualified, but if you don't gel or connect, or you could just not be the right person.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Let's do our last few.
Sorry. So Mike Flanagan.
You got to say it. You gotta do it
Sorry.
properly.
Did you guys see? So Mike Flanagan, who is Netflix's like golden child at the
Yeah.
moment, who did Haunting on Hill House.
So he's a director?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a writer director. He did
Okay.
Fall
Doctor
of the House
Sleep.
of Usher.
Yeah, Fall of the House of Usher, Doctor Sleep. He's considered the new master of horror at the moment. Like Stephen King.
He's done like 3 or 4 horror series that have all been very well received.
Yeah, and Stephen
Midnight
King's
Mass.
Stephen
Okay.
King is a big fan of him.
Yeah.
Huge. He is adapting Carrie into a miniseries for Amazon Prime,
Yes, I did hear this.
which is interesting because Netflix, I was under the impression, I think maybe their contracts run out
Yeah, maybe.
because he's given them all the stuff they want. But Stephen King's very excited that he's doing an adaptation of Carrie,
That's cool.
which will be very
Which is,
interesting.
because
Yeah.
it was a Stephen King book.
Yeah.
Yeah, directed by the original first adaptation was done by Brian De Palma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that'd be very cool. I'm excited to see that because Mark Flanagan, I mean, I haven't been a huge fan of his last few outputs.
Does it make sense that it's a series?
I don't know.
Sometimes
I've
books
never
and
read the book.
stories, it makes sense
Yeah.
as a, we've got It, Stephen King's famous
What do
novel.
we have?
We've got the novel in the gift shop of the bioscope.
No, but what is it? Kira does that to me every time, and I'm like, shut up, I hate you. Sorry.
And it is a fucking book.
It's a tome.
Yeah,
It's
it's a
a-
tome.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I think Stephen King's books tend to be quite dense. So,
So
a
that makes
series
sense.
might-
That you
yeah.
take one look at that and you're like, this has to at least be more than one movie, which of course
Yes.
it was.
Yeah.
Well, it's like when Stephen King made his own version of The Shining.
Oh, it was
as a
awful.
series.
Apparently, I never watched it. Did you?
No.
I heard it's
not
not good,
Yeah.
but it is
oh,
more faithful.
I got a question for you, Alex. Someone once at the bioscope, we were standing around the gift shop and I was telling them about the bioscope, and we've got books
Yeah.
that are on sale. They are books that have either become films or books about films or just in the world of the bioscope. We
Yeah.
think you'd like it. This one bro picked up Gerald's Game and said, "You know the fact about this book?" And I was like, "No."
Yeah.
He said Stephen King didn't write it. He said it was at the point in Stephen King's career where they outsourced
Ghostwriters.
ghostwriters to write
That
books.
makes sense.
Interesting.
And I was like, really? And I went home and Googled it. And of course, no part of Google says, yeah, this was part of that.
It's a
Yes.
theory. Yeah.
Okay.
Is it just a suspicion?
I
Did,
don't-
did you hear anything like that?
So that makes sense though, because there was a point in Stephen King's career where he was like the hottest author on the planet, and
Yeah.
he was churning out like 20 books like every 2 years. So it's either a lot of cocaine, because I know he did a lot of cocaine.
He was flying in the 80s.
Yeah, and a lot of it was terrible. So I wouldn't be surprised if they did try outsource stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean,
But I mean, imagine
yeah.
being the person that pumped that out.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, it's like sort of the early version of AI, right? Because this person's got to write it in his style.
Yeah.
But imagine it doing well and like some completely unknown person who just can't say that they did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was like, well, that was me.
Did you watch
But
the
that
Netflix?
seems like a conspiracy theory.
Did you watch the Netflix Gerald's Game?
No, I've heard it's pretty good.
It's bloody good.
the
It's
movie.
really good. Yeah.
I've seen the movie, yeah.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, I know, it's quite something.
Yeah, it's fucked up.
Okay, I got one last one.
Cool.
Which is, hey, did you guys see Kevin Bacon discovered that his wife
saw that.
is his cousin?
Oh,
But
Yeah.
here's the thing.
yes. How many times removed?
Exactly. So it is such clickbait bullshit.
Okay.
He found out that his wife is somewhat related to him. She is his 9th cousin once removed.
okay.
Whatever the fuck that is. But
Yeah,
I just
I
love
never
the
know the
idea of
once
Kevin
removed.
Bacon discovering that his wife is his cousin. And of course, that just hooks everyone.
Yes.
But I thought I would just take this as a chance to mention something.
Yeah.
Do you guys know about Bacon numbers?
Oh,
like
the
6
six.
degrees
Yeah,
from
I
Kevin
know that
Bacon.
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so for folks that don't know, it's a little Easter egg of Google. It was one of Google's like early little games that they created,
Yeah.
which is for you to discover a famous person's Bacon number.
Yeah.
Their degrees of Kevin Bacon, which is such a lovely play on degrees of separation,
Yeah.
which is basically they've obviously tabulated and coded all the people who have acted in the movies alongside Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
And what movies they are linked to. I guess it's all mining kind of
Yeah.
IMDb information.
Yes.
So you could basically put in any actor's name followed by Bacon number, and you can see their Bacon number, which is how many films they are away from Kevin
Yeah.
Bacon. So it's a lovely little thing.
Yeah.
I just thought that this is a great opportunity to bring it up if,
Yeah.
if someone hasn't.
I just wonder
heard
who
of it.
decided, hey, we should figure that
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's program it into Google. You know?
All right. Okay, let's get on to movies.
Yes.
Okay. Let's start. Let's go in order of what I watched last
Yeah,
week.
let's do that.
Let's just start with some careful treading around Gladiator 2.
Yeah.
We are going to keep the discussion around what we know from the trailer and what we can see in the trailer and talk
Yeah.
about a few things. I don't want to give too much away. And also, I don't think nobody ever said something, but I think it was pretty much a spoken rule that me as the exhibitor shouldn't go out and pretend to be a member of the press and
Yes.
talk about Gladiator 2.
Okay, yeah, got you. So let's just talk about the trailer, basically.
Well, yeah, sure. What I can say is like, it's fucking epic. It's huge. It's just like the
Scale.
first one.
Yeah.
We know we've got Paul Mescal, who is now the sort of new Russell Crowe in a sense.
Yeah.
And he seems to follow a very similar trajectory, which is upon captured, becomes a gladiator and has to sort of fight his way through life as a
Okay.
gladiator. So it's a very similar
Is
movie.
it vengeance themed again?
Yeah,
Okay.
and so I perhaps want to put a little sort of question out there, which is like, why did we need to make this movie if you are going to tell a very similar story? So I'm just going to put that out there to say
Yeah,
that's
I
my
get
one.
you.
That's my one sort of overarching question, having watched it.
Yeah.
But I will say it is fucking huge and fucking epic, and certainly deserves your attention. I'm not sure what else we can say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are your guys' sort of feelings on it? My one other comment to make is like, I think personally calling it Gladiator 2
Yeah.
is stupid.
yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think we're at that point now where perhaps unless you're a Despicable Me or a Kung Fu Panda,
Yeah.
where you're so obviously sort of playing in a very simple sandbox,
Yeah, 2 movie, yeah.
calling it Gladiator 2 points to the fact that it's a sequel too much for me. Like, it should be
Gladiator, colon,
You know,
this. Yeah,
the
I
new
get you.
Gladiator or the something of something.
Yes.
Or just like a whole new name that just has Gladiator in it.
I mean, I wonder how much of that is just marketing.
Yeah.
People want to make, like the marketing department wants to make sure people connect this to a movie that they know and is well known and people really like,
Yeah.
you know, won a bunch of
That's
Oscars.
a good point.
you
That's
know.
a good point. And so this is the
yeah,
easiest way to
cash
pin
grab.
it to that.
Yeah, given that it's so far separated from the original, which came out in what, 2000?
Yeah,
It's more
2000.
than 20
yeah.
years old now.
Yeah.
They want to make sure people like mentally connect these two
So
movies.
it's interesting because I mean, look, obviously, if you with Gladiator, Russell Crowe dies in it, right?
Yeah.
So like, I know Russell Crowe mentioned recently that he was not approached at all about it, which makes sense because what would you give this film? You know what I mean?
It could be some flashback scenes, but of course he just doesn't look the same.
No, he
Yeah.
doesn't
Oh,
at
no,
all.
not
He's a
at all.
completely different looking dude.
Yeah.
20 years on a
Yeah, but
on a
like
bro like Russell Crowe.
Yes.
the thing is, like, it's a great cast. It really is a
Mm.
good cast. But like with Ridley Scott, I mean, I know Graham, you really enjoyed Napoleon. I
Yeah.
did not. But with Ridley Scott, I mean, the last good movie he made, like, really, like, well received critically and financially, audiences as well as The Martian, right?
Yeah.
Like,
See, I even forget he made Marsh. He pumps movies out.
so that's my problem is that with Ridley Scott, when Napoleon came out and was getting slammed by critics and audiences, his whole thing was like, oh, well, Scorsese takes 4 years to make a movie. I make 2. I've made like 6 since he made his last movie.
It's like,
I
that's
mean,
not a good excuse.
that's my problem with Ridley Scott is the grumpier he's gotten, the dumber shit he says, like the dumber things he says. He blames young people for not going to his movies. Like, bro, just make better movies. You know, like it's just Ridley Scott has made some of my favorite movies of all time, and he's made 2 of what could be considered in the top 3-5 most influential sci-fi movies ever made. You know what I mean?
Which are
Blade Runner and Alien,
an
right?
alien, yeah.
And phenomenal filmmaker when he's got it right. But at this point, for me, Ridley Scott, and if he ever listens to this, he'll shit on my head and come for me personally. But with Ridley Scott, for me, at least with Martin Scorsese, he takes his time with his projects. They are labors of genuine love, and you can see it, right?
Yeah.
With Ridley Scott, he's become sort of like a man working in a factory. He just churns out shoes without any thought into it. It's just a job. He's just a workman now. There's no thought or love behind crafting those pieces. You know what I mean? That's what it feels like to me.
So
with
yeah,
Ridley
it
Scott.
maybe feels a bit more sort of Andy Warhol as opposed to, you know, someone really only making the painting that sort of is dying to be made inside.
It's just I
one
really
sort of pop art when the other one's
I mean, he's a
sort of very
filmmaker
clear
that
vision.
every time he makes something new, I have to go watch it because it's Ridley Scott. Like, it's like Tarantino, even though I haven't been a huge fan of his past few movies, like, I'm like, oh, it's Tarantino. I got to see if he's back in form for me, at least, personally.
I'm
you
a
know?
little bit like that with Wes Anderson. And
Same, exact
and
same.
with
Asteroid City.
With
fuck
Asteroid
that
City, I
movie.
was like, I don't know. He's just so far up his own ass.
He is
But
so far up
I'm
his
here.
ass.
I'm here for it.
Yeah.
But like, my God, we are up his ass.
But I've noticed a lot of those directors, you look at who their early collaborators were on their best works. They don't work with them anymore. Wes Anderson, some of his best works were co-written with Owen Wilson.
Oh, interesting.
Rushmore, Royal Tenenbaums, Bottle Rocket,
Yeah.
Steve Zissou. And then you look at...
interesting because a lot of it is about the Oros to water
Exactly.
mix.
Yes.
And
Exactly.
we all have a perfect level of Oros.
Yeah.
And if you take out a lot of that water and you are just Oros, it's gross.
It's like Tarantino. Yeah, exactly. Tarantino's best works were with his former editor who sadly passed away and his co-writer. He had a co-writer that would always work with him.
and actually tell him no. at
Yeah,
moments,
that's the
yeah.
problem, is that he needs someone to say, he's just surrounded by yes men. Okay,
Yeah, no, but that's
stop.
this is what's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I think let's move on.
let's move on.
Because I don't want to say too much now. I think
Yes.
we'll talk a bit more about it when we're closer to release
Yeah, when it
date.
actually comes
100%.
out.
Yeah.
And when those kind of embargoes lift and one
Yeah.
can speak
I
about
must,
it.
I must also remember when we do that to talk about the bonkers sequel to Gladiator that Russell Crowe had like commissioned at one point. He got a writer who's some Australian musician. He was like, write me a Gladiator sequel.
Was it Nick
And this
Cave
guy
or-
wrote, I think it may have been Nick Cave.
Nick Cave or
wrote
Warren
an
Ellis.
insane version of like a sequel to
Fuck
Gladiator.
yes, I'd love to watch a Nick Cave.
And I must remember
penned-
to look
Gladiator.
into it.
But obviously,
Obviously,
so
never know. It was
it-
way too crazy to ever get made.
Interesting.
That'd be awesome.
The other movie we watched this last week is a movie called Goodridge, which I think we know this now. There's a handful of movies that will just get a little lost in the cinema world.
Yeah.
It's very cool that the distributors invite us to these screenings so that we get a chance to see them. Because in all honesty, if we weren't on those lists, we might not have ever paid attention.
Might have missed it.
And we might have missed it. And then we know this in the history of cinema that, some movies just aren't built for cinemas, don't necessarily create buzz then, but then when they land in the video store shelves, and then later on TV, which now, of course, is like streaming, that they then become these hits because they're just the right movie for the right appetite and right place.
Yeah, got you.
So look out for this poster. It's quite a distinct poster of Michael Keaton, now being Michael Keaton in his sort of 60s, 70s, and he's sort of submerged by water. So what I want to talk about for this is talk about some aspects of the movie which I think are admirable, and I think you guys would appreciate this. And I can set it up because it's clear from the trailer, but I thought you guys would appreciate. As this movie starts, you are fucking put straight in. And so this is a lesson for any writer, any screenwriter, to not waste any time in setting up your movie. And I think it's a masterclass in that. This movie starts with a phone call in the middle of the night where Michael Keaton picks up the phone, expecting it's his wife. Right. He's expecting her to be home. He says, "Where are you? It's late. What's happening?" And she says, "I'm in rehab."
Cool.
And he goes, "What? Like what? Like
Why?
what?"
Yes.
She's like, "I'm in this facility. You can't talk to me." And he's like, then you realize, this is like minute 2.
Yeah.
He didn't even believe she had a problem.
Right.
He's like, what like, this makes no sense. He's like, you drink a little, but I mean, I wouldn't have even said you have a problem. She's like, it's not drinking. And he's like, what the fuck? Like, And then you discover that there's been some use of like pills.
Right.
Not that she's crazy and fucked, but she's taken enough pills that she feels out of balance. She's like, I take something to wake up. I take something to fall asleep. She's obviously not
like
happy with her
prescription
life.
meds,
She's found herself, she's built up, compounded too much, and she's now in this facility.
Right.
It's great.
Nice.
This is in this dark, in this sort of bedside table. And then the movie is about him in these 90 days while his wife is in rehab. His name is, someone Goodridge. We discover he is a somewhat established guy in LA. He owns the Goodridge Gallery. And he's lived a life of busyness, chaos.
Yeah.
Well, not chaos, but he spends most of his nights at events, networking, doing things. He's got 2 kids who are young enough to be quite fragile, so they're 9.
Yeah.
They're these 2 twins that he's got to look after, and you realize very quickly, much like he missed his wife's pill problem, that he hasn't been looking out. He hasn't played a part in raising these kids.
Right.
So he's got to learn basics like drop off and lunch boxes and their schedule. But he also has a daughter from a previous marriage who's now very much a grown woman, played by Mila Kunis.
Okay.
And she is about to give birth. So he's about to become a grandfather. And so the questions of what kind of a father he was to her are also played, because he tries to pull her in to help him. She's like, I got my own shit to deal with. I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
It's a lovely film.
Okay.
And it's well written. There's like 1 or 2 moments that really shine, because the man that Mila Kunis is married is the complete opposite of him.
Yeah.
A husband that's present, that's there, and old Michael Keaton sees what a good husband should be in this guy, and that's why he perhaps doesn't sort of like him, but he comes to love
for
him.
sure.
It's great. So I really think it's worth your time.
Cool.
It's a lovely character film. I think it's great for anyone in the world of writing to appreciate. And I wanted to bring up something. I don't know what to call it. I want to call it the Gooey moment, which is when a film gets me in such a way that like my sort of insides go a little warm and gooey.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There's like the little emotional flurry. People in the past have called that kind of butterflies.
Yeah, I got you.
It's that feeling of like your insides sort of warm up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe I was in the wrong headspace, but like I didn't feel that as much as I wanted in Gladiator.
Okay.
Maybe that's why I don't want to say it's a bad movie, and I don't want to talk about that, but I was left a little bit cold.
Okay, I got you.
everyone could have their own and should go out and have
Shoemaker
their own
theory.
experience.
Shoemaker theory.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry.
But in Goodridge, there were a couple of moments where the microwave got turned on and I was like a little bit gooey. So that, for me, personally, that is a good movie for me.
Okay, nice.
It's like, did I get some kind of gooey moment?
So I think at the video store you should have
Russell's gooey moment.
the sticker like Oprah's club.
Certified gooey.
Yes.
Certified gooey. You
Makes
should
no
do
sense.
that.
Oh my God. Okay, then the next movie we watched was Venom.
Actually, just want to ask you a question quickly. Is Michael Keaton credited as Michael Keaton?
Yes.
Okay, because
He's changed his.
yes, 'cause
Yeah.
his real name is Michael Douglas.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes, but
That's
then because of
interesting.
like the guild rules and that sort of thing, you can't have two people with the same name.
Yeah.
So when he registered as Michael Keaton, but he said from now on he wanted to be credited as Michael Douglas Keaton.
Yeah, it's like Emma,
wasn't sure if that
it's
was a
like
thing
Emma
yet.
Stone wants to be credited as
Emily,
Emily Stone.
yeah.
and,
Apparently, apparently it's sort of, it's almost like phoning home affairs. Like you're on this phone and then eventually like when you're a young actor, you like get this one moment.
Yes.
yeah.
Where you literally go, okay, name number one, and then they check and they go, no, and then
Someone
you go,
that's
fuck.
taken. Yeah.
Then you got to go, okay, cool. Here's name number two, and then you got to kind of book it then
Yeah,
and there.
exactly.
Well, I know Michael Douglas's name isn't Michael Douglas.
Oh,
It's-
really?
Yeah, it's like a Polish Jewish surname.
okay.
Yeah. Same as Charlie Sheen and Emilio Estevez.
And
Their
Ben
name
Kingsley.
is Estevez. Yeah,
Yeah.
Ben Kingsley as well.
His real name is
It's Indian, isn't
yeah,
it?
it's Indian. It's something Krishna something.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Interesting.
But it's completely like Indian name. 'Cause his father's Indian.
I do like that these actors are now going, fuck it, call me
Yeah.
by my actual name.
Exactly,
Like,
yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there obviously was like a Samuel Jackson, and he was like, okay, fuck, okay, well,
Samuel
Samuel L.
L.
Jackson. And they're like, cool, you can be that.
yes.
Yeah.
It's like a sort of URL registry.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so then
Venom
we
2,
then watched Venom.
Venom look
Three,
at all these
The Last
Venoms.
Dance,
The Last
yeah.
Dance.
So
Thank
this
you.
is what I wanted to say.
Yes.
Stupid name.
Yeah.
Because I saw
Stupid name, stupid movie.
No, because I saw a poster for it in the shopping malls.
Yes.
Where they had another like slogan,
Oh, okay.
and I was like, "That's cool." And in my head, that was its
The
name.
title, yeah.
And then you realize that's not what it's called.
Yes,
It's called
it's just
Venom:
the
The Last
tagline.
Dance. And The Last Dance has already been taken. In the last 2 years, that's been credited to the fucking awesome NBA
Yes.
miniseries on Netflix.
Yeah.
That was called
That
The
was a great
Last
show.
Dance.
The Michael Jordan documentary.
Yeah,
the
it was
Bulls,
about
the
the
Chicago
Chicago
Bulls.
Bulls.
Yes.
That dynasty,
And it
yeah.
and it all centers around their last season, which they called The Last Dance.
Right.
And
Fucking
it
great
recently,
show,
in the last
jeepers.
2 years, that's what you associate the phrase The Last
Yes.
Dance. I saw a poster that said Venom, something like "Till Death Do Us Part," and in my head that was the name of the
Yes,
movie, and I was like,
okay.
"That's a much better name,"
Yeah.
because it's the whole movie, and we'll get into it now.
Yeah.
Centers around him being in this symbiosis
Yeah.
with the Venom character,
Yeah.
and that we know they kind of have to part.
Yes.
So that makes far more sense. It's like someone
It's a buddy
someone
movie.
should have pushed
Yeah.
for that
Yeah.
as the name of the movie. But anyways, we've had these two movies so far, and now this is the third that kind of make a trilogy
Yeah.
of the Tom Hardy Venom
Yes.
films.
Otherwise known as the Garbage Trilogy. Sorry.
I really want to talk about the plot of this movie.
Okay, so
'Cause-
Graham, you
So
talk.
early on, like in fact, the way the movie opens, it's one of those movies that opens with just let's exposit at you,
Okay.
and you have the sort of villain on the movie who's not even
Oh,
in
a scientist
the movie.
telling you everything. Yeah,
kind
I
of,
get
but
you.
no, this is like a space monster
Yeah, you
called-
never quite see his face
called
throughout.
Null.
Yeah.
Null, spelled with a K, voiced by Andy Serkis, who directed the
Oh,
last one. But he tells us that he this is the dude who created the symbiotes, and the symbiotes like rebelled and built a prison for him that he's trapped in. But if a symbiote is attached to its host and the host dies but comes back to life, it then creates a thing that acts as a key to open up the prison. And I'm just thinking, movie, what the fuck are you talking about?
Why
This
would you
makes
wanna
no
do
sense.
that?
It makes no sense. Why would that be a thing?
Yeah.
So basically, it's like this kind
It
of.
makes it.
So by virtue of this elaborate plot device,
yes,
Tom Hardy now has this kind of GPS tracker within
Yeah.
him.
which
because-
only activates when they're like in venom form.
Oh, it's too much.
And then the things that they're like monster things that this Null guy controls
It sounds like
can
a
see them.
It sounds like a cocaine idea.
But it's like
It's a Stephen King cocaine
Yeah.
idea in the 80s.
But it's
No,
like-
it's just someone going, I got it. I fucking got it.
the symbiotes like created this prison, but they built in this system where if one of them dies while connected to a host, it creates a thing that can
Okay.
open the prison. It makes absolutely
And somehow
no
they all
sense.
like that. Yeah, let's do
It is
this.
such nonsense.
Everyone just like schnaps a line and goes, fucking brilliant.
But it literally like within the first 2 minutes of the movie, I was like, this makes no sense. You've lost me.
Okay, so I've got a question to you, which is, in the previous two,
Yes.
do we ever even leave Earth?
No.
Okay, so
No.
that's the thing, is that, so we've got this kind of punk rock first film where
Yeah.
we've got a Tom Hardy who's just a regular sort of dude that gets sort of linked to this kind of alien creature,
Yes.
right? Let's just give some context. Somehow this alien creature
So the
fuses with him
yes.
and becomes this kind of thing that lives inside him that can almost build itself on top of him
Yeah.
to create venom.
Yeah. So
And-
in the comic books, to like explain this, the symbiote is brought back from space by a space shuttle crew.
Yeah.
I
remember
think
that.
the story is they have to like do an emergency landing in New York. That's like the story, and that's how it ends up being connected to Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And it's brought back by J. Jonah Jameson's son, who's an astronaut, who later becomes a
Yes.
space werewolf, but we don't need to talk about that. Yeah, so that's how it's sort of connected, and it's, again, traditionally connected to Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And Sony keeps doing this thing where they make their Spider-Man villains as heroes movies, and none of them work. All of them are bad, and no one likes any of them.
Craven is going to be terrible.
Craven's coming out. They did
Madam
Madam
Web.
Web, which
Oh,
was
Madam Web
apparently
was-
an absolute
it's
disaster. They did
goth.
Morbius, which was
Oh.
also terrible.
Yeah,
and none of them
stop
work.
making villain
Like,
movies.
there's
Stop
like these,
making
people
Spider-Man.
want to watch
yeah,
Spider-Man fight
exactly,
these characters.
Exactly. Thank
You
you
know.
very
but
much.
is Venom meant to just be a full-on villain?
He's like an
or-
anti-hero.
He started as a villain
Yeah,
and
he-
has sort of over time become
It's like Harley
little
Quinn.
bit.
Like Harley
Yes.
Quinn started
Yeah,
as a villain
exactly.
on the animated show, and then over time they made her like, oh, she's like this because the Joker is terrible to
Yeah.
her, and she's actually not terrible. And yeah,
Yes.
carry on.
And yeah, Venom's had like a bunch of different hosts and that sort of thing. It's the same character. It is the same character in the comic books. I was trying to remember if they changed
Wasn't
that or
the
not.
bully in the comic books?
It was a guy who he
like a
worked
football
with.
player
It was
or
like a
something.
Bravo photographer
Oh yes,
at
okay.
not the Daily Planet. That's Super
Daily Bugle.
Daily Bugle. Thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah. I
But
can
again,
say
it's a Spider-Man character, and they're just completely
Yeah.
ignoring the connection to Spider-Man, which
The-
is
Stupid.
the one
Stun.
thing that I think is redeeming about this film
Mm.
is that the point of what they're trying to make endearing is the fact that there's this buddy film. As
Yeah, it's
you
a
said,
buddy
Yeah.
comedy.
between this sort of eager, sort of somewhat evil but very powerful sort of person that sort
Yeah.
of lives inside him, this kind of alien,
yeah.
and him who's this kind of guy.
Eddie Brock. That's his
Eddie
name.
Eddie
I've been
Brock,
trying to
yeah.
remember his
And
name.
one thing's worth mentioning is that for a lot of these Venom movies, for continuity, as an actor for what probably was months,
Yeah.
he would have to have been acting in these like sweaty,
Yes,
dirty
filthy clothes. Yeah.
which people don't think, because in the movie time, it's 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for Tom Hardy's career, it was
It's
probably
months.
months where
Yeah.
he had to be this like dirty, sweaty dude.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I think is interesting. But yeah, so you get to the end of this relationship in this movie,
We need
and
to talk about the end of this movie, even if it's spoilers. But yeah, carry on.
but
carry on.
no, I don't want to actually talk much more about this
Yeah.
movie because there were no Gooey moments.
Yes.
It was it was just, it was a CGI
Yeah,
fest,
yes.
and it also just, as you said, there's this kind of very elaborate plot device.
Yeah, that makes no sense. That the movie.
Yeah, so it was a bit shit.
Okay, but so the
So,
whole way
yeah.
home, I was like, I must have looked like a crazy person. I could not stop laughing because of the end of this movie. I just found it, and the more I thought about it, the funnier I found it. So spoilers for Venom, for the end of Venom, The Last Dance. I'll put time codes in. Venom dies at the end.
Okay.
Okay. But then the movie ends with this montage of Eddie Brock, Tom Hardy,
Hardy.
walking around New York, reminiscing about all his fun little adventures with Venom. It ends in exactly the same way that the Fast and the Furious movie where Paul Walker died ended. You know, where Vin Diesel sits around and he remembers all his memories about Paul Walker.
Oh my God.
So they do exactly that.
Does he have a barbecue with the family?
That would have been great. But he's remembering all of his fond little memories with this horrible goo monster.
Yeah.
Not a real man who died. You know? And it's like, it was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my entire life because it felt like a parody.
Funny, yeah. It felt like an
parody,
SNL skit or something.
But they're playing it straight. And he even has the little like, I won't forget you, buddy.
Oh,
and it's
God.
like, dude, the more I thought about it, the funnier I found it.
So I haven't watched it. I wasn't planning on watching it.
Don't.
I asked you before we came in here, I'm like, is it worse than Venom 2? And he said it's way worse.
I think it's worse than Venom 2.
Two
And Venom
was
2's bad.
Shocking. Like, do you know what irritates me about the Venom movies is it thinks it's so funny. It's that class clown in school who was not funny. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
Where you're just like, fucking shut the fuck up, Venom. Like, oh, hello.
Yeah,
I want to eat her.
he's got this kind of character to him. Yeah.
And then Tom Hardy in every fucking movie with any American accent, he's always, I'm from Brooklyn. You know, like, it's his go-to accent. Whenever he could be playing fucking Thomas Edison. Yo, well, I'm walking here. I'm inventing here. You know, Jesus
Juno
Christ.
Temple is in this.
Yes.
They got a couple of cast members from Ted Lasso.
Oh, right.
You could just see that someone knew the casting director of Ted Lasso, or someone watched and were like, these guys are good.
Yeah.
So Juno Temple's come over, and then the Mexican guy from Ted Lasso.
I love football.
okay.
Yeah, he's like very sweet, and he's
Yes.
perfectly cast in Ted Lasso.
Yes.
He's just a barman in this movie, but it's a
Oh,
little cameo.
okay.
But Juno Temple is British and puts on an amazing American accent.
Juno Temple
Isn't
She's really good.
Chiwetel, wait, how do you sell?
Yeah, that
pronounce his
guy.
name? He's also British, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
I think so. Yeah,
He's
so there's
also
a
an
bunch
American
of people
accent in
putting on
this.
American accent.
Yes.
All right.
Avoid.
Yeah. Should we move on to TV?
Let's do it.
Sure. Let's
Okay.
get
I started Dr. Odyssey,
Okay.
which is the big billboards across Joburg TV show. It is Disney Plus's new Something for Everyone TV show. So I had to give it a try to talk to you guys about it. It stars Joshua Jackson, who we all know as Pacey.
And the guy from Fringe.
Fringe.
Yeah, Fringe. He's like the main character in Fringe.
Do you remember Fringe?
Oh,
Fringe
no.
was like
Fringe.
that was like the
It was-
2000s answer to X-Files.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's great. It was like a J.J. Abrams show.
Yeah.
Okay. But Joshua Jackson was Pacey from Dawson's Creek and was in the Mighty Ducks films.
Yes.
So he plays Dr. Max Bankman, who is the new doctor on a big, fancy-ass cruise ship. And you think, what?
Okay.
Do they have a hospital and a cruise boat? And you
suppose they
best
must.
believe they do, because they are often too far away from land
Yeah.
to do anything. And
I
so,
know there are morgues on cruise ships. Carry on.
No, exactly. No, they are.
Yeah, they are.
Because a
they
lot
have
of
to.
people fucking die, because a lot of retirees go on cruise ships.
Yes.
So it's really silly, but it's desperately trying to be something for everyone,
Okay.
and it's not shit.
Right.
The pilot was a bit much, where you're like, okay, this is like the fourth emergency in 30 minutes. But I think they were trying to show you the possibilities
Okay.
of
Okay.
like Strange Thing, Anomaly. So it's a little bit like House, where they've got to figure out
Yes.
what it could be.
Yeah.
Plus, they needed to set up a lot of characters where everyone's quite pretty, and
Right.
the romantic triangle between him and one of the nurses
Okay.
who's working with him, and
So it's trying to be like your typical 4-quadrant show.
it sets up
Yeah.
something for everything. Don Johnson is the captain of the ship.
Oh, right.
He's a real sort of silver fox, and in episode 2, Shania Twain
Oh,
rocks
cool.
up as like a cougar, and they have a relationship.
Wow.
So no, it's a little bit of romance, it's a little bit of comedy, a little bit of medical drama. So perhaps it's a bit too much.
Right.
But that's up to you guys to decide. It's not crap. It's not dog shit. But it might just be a bit too much.
Sorry, I'm just thinking of all
And that
these.
is on Disney Plus.
I'm thinking of all these harp stickers we can put on everything. We got certified gooey.
Certified
It's not
gooey.
shit, but it's not.
Yes.
It's not crap, but it's not.
Yeah, there's always somewhere in between. No, but they definitely, I think it's interesting to see a TV show like this be made, because obviously it's also a huge budget, because you need a fucking ship.
Yeah.
Right.
You need
That
a real
Disney
ship
money,
to
baby.
do this. I mean, there's a
Right.
lot of big shots of the decks, and you know,
Yeah.
so it's like, so they really did a big swing.
Okay.
And I think it's interesting that it also makes sense that there's lots of billboards around
Mm.
that they're giving it a big go, because
Yeah,
I think
see
the
trailer in movies a lot.
smaller streaming shows, they don't put any money behind
Yeah.
the marketing, as we've said, and then they see whether in the algorithms it works, and then they start punting, and then you start seeing the billboards.
Yeah.
But this one clearly was a very big budget.
Okay.
I also think it's interesting that we're seeing on streaming, we're seeing these kind of famous faces from the 90s come back
Yeah.
in a more glow up
Yeah.
sense of it. You know,
I'm
with
digging-
Adam Brody is in Nobody Wants This, and everyone's like, I remember him.
Yeah.
So everybody knows, you know, these streamers are smart, where they're recasting the sort of heartthrobs of the noughties,
Yeah.
because those folk are now their prime audience for streaming, which is the 30, 40-year-olds, because they're the ones that are at home.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's a Joshua Jackson we all know from our childhood.
Yeah.
And he's certainly being portrayed in this show as a handsome guy.
Yeah.
You know, he's meant to be slick and stylish.
What's
and
his
comes
name?
in.
Max Bankman.
Yeah. It's also like, that's why I wanted to put in his name.
Yeah.
It
And
sounds
mention
like
it because it's such a silly name.
it sounds like the name where they're like, okay, we need a name for a banker. Max Bankman.
Yeah, I know. So he's a doctor who comes from a
That's the
history
J.K. Rowling
of
School of Writing.
yeah. His background is that he did more of the sort of Doctors Without Borders-y type work. You know,
Okay, so he's a hot, handsome doctor.
who's got a heart
Yeah.
because he sort of did the refugee stuff, but he's had a lot of experience, and the whole question is, why is he on this slick, beautiful boat? Why did he give that up? Because I think he wants a change of pace. But it's a cool little breakdown of what life is like on those boats, and
Yeah.
you know, this could have very easily been written by someone who perhaps crewed on ships.
Right.
You know, where they're
Yeah.
like, this is crazy, man. The fact that people do this, or the fact that there's singles week and then this happens, or
Yeah,
what happens if the one guy
100%.
now gets an STD and then now you got to
What?
tell everyone on the boat who he slept with.
Yeah. That's a fun
the old
idea.
retirees that eat so much shrimp, they get a particular kind of poisoning that he
Yeah.
didn't think was possible.
Right.
But it's like, no, that's what happens. They eat that much shrimp. So it's kooky.
Okay, so but you enjoyed it, eh?
Yeah,
it's like fun.
and I
It's
think
fun
it was
and
interesting,
casual
like-
viewing. Yeah.
Yeah, the pilot, as I said, was a bit too packed.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Les, my dear wife, was like,
Oh yeah, congrats.
Yeah.
Muzzles.
we got legally married
Yeah,
last
you're
week.
government
and then
married now.
Government married, and the big marriage
Yes.
is coming up this weekend. She was like, let's give it one more. Let's see.
Okay.
You know, and then the second episode was a little better done.
Nice.
Okay.
So it sort of found its feet.
Cool.
Good, man.
We then watched more episodes of Simone Biles Rising.
Oh, yeah,
yes.
the new episodes have
Yeah.
dropped, yeah.
Okay.
So this, I think, is what Netflix does the best,
Right.
which are these like
Sports dockies, yeah.
Dockies.
They're great.
Shout out to 20 minutes ago when we were talking about The Last Dance.
Oh my god, so good.
So they have been doing this series on Simone Biles. And for those who don't know who Simone Biles is, she's arguably the greatest
Gymnast
of all time.
yeah.
She is now in her late 20s, having just competed in Paris. So the first episodes came out before Paris, and then there was this break. And now that Paris has happened, the episodes have dropped that are sort of about Paris.
Yeah, the editors can sleep now.
Yeah, because it was a big deal
Yeah.
for a few reasons. And the one sort of best way to contextualize it for someone who doesn't sort of know her is that by her competing in Paris, she was one of the only gymnasts, I think, since the 40s, and that doesn't count because,
Yeah.
you know, we were just, what those gymnasts did in the 30s and 40s is
Yeah.
what, you know, little kids do in their sleep now.
Yeah.
But she's the first gymnast since then to have competed in 3 consecutive Olympics. So that
Okay.
just doesn't happen.
Yes.
And she's the oldest gymnast at 27
Yeah. Yeah.
to be in the Olympics
Jeez.
since.
Yeah, because their bodies get
You know,
wrecked, dude. Yo.
And the also further context for those who perhaps need it is that her experience in Tokyo was very famously
Cut short. Yeah.
cut short,
Yeah.
and this whole problem. And she had to bow out in
Yeah.
Tokyo, and it was very largely not because of a physical injury, but more an emotional injury.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
like
yeah.
this term in the world of gymnastics is called like the wobbles or the twisties. It's called the
Yes, yeah.
twisties. And I think that's interesting. I think almost all the docu-series, whether it's Robbie Williams, sitting on his couch in the underpants, or his bed in the
Beckham.
underpants, or the Beckham
Yeah.
stuff, is to review history and review these famous people through the lens of mental health.
Yeah, 100%.
Because it is
yeah.
arguably the most important.
Yeah.
Especially the sprint series. They say it throughout the Netflix series Sprint. Yeah, you got to be fucking fast and you're going to have strong muscles, of course. But it is 90% what's in your fucking head.
Yeah.
And if you were mentally good enough to take off at the split second that you should, that your head is right, going into that, it's all that. And what was interesting in this one episode, not to give too much away, is that when they do one particular discipline in the gymnastics, the guy was like, this one is all mental.
Yeah.
It's not about how high your kick is or how much you can somersault. If you nail this one, it's because your head's fucking right, because you got to balance. It's the balance beam.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's all about how fucking solid your head is.
It's just wild that, like, in this day and age, and thankfully it's getting better, but, like, when you're in the limelight, people get mental breaks. I mean,
Yeah.
famously, Britney Spears in the 2000s.
Exactly.
And it happens to everyone, right? Corey Feldman's been going through it for a long time because he got treated awfully by Hollywood and he's going through so much trauma. But anyways, like, and one thing that pisses me off is that people can't see them as human beings.
Yes.
They can't see
Yeah.
that, like when Simone Biles dropped out, I remember everyone was like, oh, she's a coward.
Exactly,
Like,
yeah,
she's
yeah.
pathetic. Oh, like, just do your job. We go to the office and you do. But, like, what the fuck are you doing? You're watching,
No,
you're
sure.
eating a burger, watching her do this
Yeah.
crazy shit on TV.
I love that. It's so
Like-
great when Olympics roll around, us sitting on our couch going,
Yes.
oh, didn't land that one.
Well, no, the best one is when they do those perfect dive. You're like, wow, that was incredible. And the judge is like, oh, she really fucked up there. Like, her career's over.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
Jesus.
No, with the diving, I just look at the splash. I was like, that was a little splash.
Yeah.
That was a tiny splash. I think she fucking nailed that. Oh, no, that was a bit too much splash.
Well, it's like in the cooking shows, I'll be like, wow, that lamb looks perfect. And Gordon Ramsay's like, overcooked, charred to shit.
Yeah.
It's fucking terrible. Or you're like, oh, that's undercooked. Wow, perfect.
Yeah.
You're like,
no,
what?
but I must say, at the end of this Simone Biles series, Leslie turns to me and goes, you really feel her as a human.
Yeah, I love those.
and
It
so the fact
humanizes
that-
them. Yeah.
There's this great moment where she's in her new house that she's going to move in, and she's like, "This is going to be my office." She's like, "I don't know what I'm going to do in it,
Yeah.
but it's going to be my office." She's like, "I can put a computer there and I can Google stuff," and she like giggles to herself.
I love,
and
yeah.
you leave that going, "That's awesome!
Yeah.
Like fucking well done.
I
You deserve it because I'm on your side.
Yes.
Because
100%,
mentally
yeah.
I get you."
I love shows that humanize those like mythic figures because like you look at the Beckham show, the best example of that show.
Is the moment.
Yeah, the moment where Victoria Beckham's talking about how like, oh, I grew up in a working class family,
And he's
then
like,
he
"No,
chimes
no."
in, and that was unscripted because apparently the director was pissed off that because he wasn't supposed to be there, and he was like, no, you were not working class. What car did your dad drive? And she's like, oh, he drove a. She's like, no, what
And he
car
goes,
did he
no,
drive?
no.
Yeah.
Simple answer.
Yeah.
What car did he drive?
She's like a Rolls Royce.
And he's like, thank you. And he
just
closes
leaves.
the door. Do you know this moment?
No.
It's arguably like the moment
greatest
of the
moment.
whole show.
Right.
And it actually sets up everything about
Yeah.
the Beckham documentary.
Yeah, but
No, and
yeah.
even in sprint, like if you just watched the Olympics and saw Noah Lyles
Yeah.
and saw that arrogance
yeah,
and how he presents it to the world, you'd be like, this oak is an arrogant prick.
yeah.
So when you watch sprint, you realize what he's doing.
Yes.
And even some places of vulnerability and where that comes from and how
Uh-huh.
he's purposefully said, I want to put on a show. I want to take sprinting, and that's his opinion, that he's got to sort of give this persona.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's got it, and he's got the happiness and the exuberance.
Okay.
So part of it is natural. But if you don't quite get the context, you take one look at that and you're like, this looks an arrogant prick.
Yeah. It's like last thing on this.
Yeah.
The one great movie people should seek out to watch something that humanizes people is a documentary just simply called Diego Maradona. It was
Okay.
by the guy who did, I don't know if you watched the documentary Senna, the Amy
Yes.
Winehouse ones.
Yeah.
So that filmmaker, his thing is he only uses archival footage, no talking heads, and you'll have
Nice.
people talk over stuff.
Okay.
And the Diego Maradona one is incredible because it was released before he died. But it was incredible because whenever you see Diego Maradona, you think this coked up, insanely talented football player who
Yeah.
had problems, connections with the mafia in Italy and stuff. You watch this documentary and it humanizes him. You actually see and hear how he was fucking manipulated by the mafia in Italy and how
Right.
like he got hooked on cocaine because of them. And like there'd be
Interesting.
stories where like he would be called at 3 a.m. by the Camorra in one of the slums in Naples, and they'd be like, "Hey, come and do a meet and greet." And he'd be like, "I don't want to," and they're like, "No, well,
sort of
you
had him by
have
the-
to."
They had him by the balls.
They had
yeah.
him by the balls the whole time. So like
Interesting,
it's such a great documentary. And I think it's on Showmax or it's on, you can rent it. But Diego Maradona, incredible film.
Okay.
Incredible film.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Should I do my list quick?
Horror.
Fuck, we didn't even get to that.
Okay.
But
Okay,
since we're not,
quickly.
let's do a long one this week because we're not doing an episode next week.
Got you.
Yeah.
So that we can go a bit longer this week. I
Okay.
think that's fine.
All right, so let's talk about couches, right? So my issue with couches.
All right. So with it being spooky season,
Yes.
and with Perrin working today,
Yeah.
we love ourselves a good list.
My
okay,
soiled, crumpled up list. Sorry.
let's hear it.
Okay,
Okay,
so-
so what is this list once again? This is the films, the best films to watch right now that are available for you to watch on our streaming platforms in South Africa.
Yeah. So obviously, so many of the old classics that I would have loved to have recommended are not available here.
Yeah.
Obviously the mainstay classics like the Psychos, the Shinings, those are all available.
Yeah.
But I want to recommend stuff that you may have missed or stuff that is just like really fucking good that is just not
Yeah.
as known to the mainstream. Like us,
No, I
us-
think that's the point of us. Is
Yeah.
that, like, the big known stuff you would have seen. The algorithms would have recommended them. But
yeah.
But I think just like any video store, our streaming platforms have a bunch that are just in the corner that you might have
Yeah.
missed. All right, so let's do it.
So I mean, some of these titles our cinephiles here probably know about or have heard about, but for the normies, no, I'm joking. But like for
Sure.
yeah, okay. So, Creep. Have you guys heard of Creep?
Okay, so is this coming in at number 5?
So this is I'm gonna cheat. Creep 1 and 2 is number 5, right?
cool.
It's not in order, but this is one of them, right? So Creep was done. So you know who Mark Duplass is, right?
No.
Ooh, I know
So
Oh, I know the one Duplass brother.
yeah, it's no, that is Mark Duplass. So there's two
Yes.
Duplass brothers. One is the director, and there's
The one that does more the acting.
yeah, Patrick Bryce. He directed it with Mark Duplass writing it. Now Mark Duplass. One of his things that he's known for is mumblecore, right? So that
Yeah.
was a movement in the 2000s where it was very naturalistic dialogue, mostly improvised,
A very American,
very indie.
indie
Yeah.
American scene
Yeah,
of filmmaking.
The Safdies are very influenced
Yes.
by it. Very gritty, grimy and stuff like that. So Creep falls in line with the found footage horror wave, right?
Cool.
And where is it available?
So both are on Netflix. Okay.
Nice.
So the reason why I'm including both is because they're both short films. They're only 80 minutes.
Cool.
You could do a great double feature off the bat, right? But now Creep, what it's about is Mark Duplass invites the guy who actually directed it. He plays Aaron, Patrick Bryce. And Patrick Bryce is a struggling videographer, filmmaker, and he sees an advert that says $1,000, come to my house and we'll just film us hanging out.
Okay.
That's the job.
okay.
So he goes out to the woods and he meets Mark Duplass's character, and the whole thing is he sells him is that, I've got cancer, I'm dying. I just want to make a video for my son to see of the things that we won't get to do together. So like a little bath together, or like learning to shave and stuff like that, right? So it's like an instructional video to the son that it might not happen, like these things might not happen with them together. So he wants to do that. But obviously the things start getting weird, and he starts
Especially
to
if, he wants to bath with someone.
yeah, so he starts to show that he's not who he says he is, right? So Creep 2 is the same kind of premise, the whole found footage thing. And now there's a third Creep thing coming on Shudder. We don't have it here, unfortunately, but it's called The Creep Tapes, which is going to be a mini series of more of these tapes.
Right.
Okay.
And
That's a cool premise.
it's fucking great. It's funny. It's creepy. It's just Mark Duplass, one of the best horror movie villains ever.
Nice.
So good. And I love Mark Duplass. He's so personable and so lovely. And he does it so well where you're like, I like this guy. He's creepy, but I like this guy. you
Yeah,
know?
because he sometimes plays. People will recognize him as being in comedies like a little bit of a creepy dude.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
the sort of creepy friend that's a bit too horny or a bit
Yeah.
too sort of.
But it's
you know.
so good. Creep is
Okay, cool.
phenomenal, right? Then Ginger Snaps.
Ginger snaps.
Have you heard of
this?
Okay,
Yeah.
so Ginger Snaps is a 2000s Canadian horror movie, werewolf movie.
And where is this?
This is on Prime,
Okay.
so Amazon Prime. So Ginger Snaps is one of the best coming-of-age horror movies I've seen. It still holds up. It's got that 2000s teen horror charm to it, like the Final Destinations and the
Yeah.
not as high budget as that. Let's say like
No one-
Urban Legend, that kind of stuff.
There's a
Right.
whole age of people that can't drive behind like a bunch of logs on the back of a truck.
I'm one of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so Ginger Snaps is a coming of age story about two sisters who one of them gets bitten by a werewolf but on the cusp of her becoming a woman through puberty. So she's balancing becoming a woman while also becoming a werewolf.
Right.
And it is outstanding. It's a great movie on sisterhood. It's a great movie on
When was it made?
I think 2000 or 2001.
Okay, so it's a relatively old movie now.
Yeah, they did 2 sequels that I've yet to see because I don't want to tarnish the original.
It sounds like a horror version of Turning Red.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It totally
Just
is.
without the Asian.
100% is.
Without the
And
Asianness.
Yeah.
it's so good. It holds up. The creature effects are fantastic. It's a small, low-budget Canadian film, and it's just phenomenal, right?
Okay.
So that's great. Leading from that into this, Raw by Julie Decanal, I think is how you say her surname.
Okay.
So I would have put Titane on the list because Titane is one of my favorite movies of all time now.
Yeah, that's a bizarre premise.
It's-
I need to watch that.
Yeah,
movie.
it's fucked, but it's
not
such
available.
it's not available anything locally, unfortunately. But Raw is available on Apple TV to rent.
Is it the same filmmaker?
Same director.
Okay.
So Raw is a cannibal movie, and it's about a girl who attends a veterinary school. Her sister is in, I think, 2 years above her or something. But she's a vegetarian. She was raised vegetarian. But at this veterinary school, the hazing incident means that they are like covered in like rabbit's blood and stuff like that. And they have to eat like raw rabbit's liver or something, right?
Jesus.
But this wakes something up inside her, and she develops a lust for flesh, and particularly human flesh, right?
Oh.
And now, great film as well. If we talk about Ginger Snap, so it's a coming-of-age story. This is as well, where she starts to become who she didn't know she was this whole time. You know what I mean? Like, it's a great movie on sisterhood as well, on family trauma that ties into it, and it's one of the best body horror movies you can watch as well. It's very inventive. It's really hard to watch, especially like fingers being bitten and stuff like that. But
Apparently, speaking of vegetarians
Yeah.
and cannibalism,
Yeah.
apparently you can bite someone's finger off in the exact same ease that you could bite a carrot.
Right.
that makes sense.
The only thing that stops you is your brain going, "This is a finger.
Yeah.
This is a finger. This is going to be sore, and you shouldn't do this."
Ouchies.
But apparently, you can bite it off with your mouth,
Huh.
just like you would bite a carrot.
Jeez.
Okay, well,
It's possible.
there's Russell's
Wow,
tip
Dave.
to cannibals. Yeah. To budding cannibals. But yeah,
Don't know how I know that. I
Yeah.
just do. All right, now we're on to 2.
4. Okay,
Oh,
no,
you're
wait,
going
wait.
up in
No,
counting
well,
down.
No, it's
No list,
It's
no
no
order.
order,
No
right?
particular order.
Okay, so I've got a whole bunch here. So I'm trying to find ones that like.
Got to
people
narrow it
miss.
down, Perrin.
Okay, I'm trying to avoid ones that we spoke about.
You got 2 left.
Okay, so You Won't Be Alone. With-
You won't be alone.
So I was very surprised to see that it's available to rent on Apple TV. So it's technically it's an Australian production, but it's in Macedonian. It's set in Macedonia in like the 1800s or
Where the
something.
fuck's Macedonia? What is that?
It's North Macedonia. So Alexander the Great is not Greek; he's Macedonian. It's like
Is it
in
that-
that region. It's not. It's landlocked, I think. but it's above like Italy and Albania and all those places.
All right.
Yeah, so it's Eastern
ancient
Europe.
Europe.
Yeah. So, anyways, so
And it's called?
You Won't Be Alone.
Okay.
So
What's
it's
it about?
So it's a witch like horror. It's like a folk horror. I'd say it's more of a horror drama or drama horror in that order, whatever. Anyways, so the whole movie is in Macedonian, and basically what it's about is a witch infects a baby to become a witch, and I think a witch, to make someone else a witch, you have to like cut them with their like finger or something, right?
Yes.
So anyways, this child grows up with the abilities of being a witch, which is shape shifting and stuff like that, right? But now what this movie is think Terrence Malick doing The Witch.
Okay.
So it's very poetic, it's beautiful, right? And this whole movie is about this woman. It's an obvious on the nose thing, but like learning to be human. So throughout her years as a child, going into teenage years and stuff, when she's finally out and about experiencing humans, she literally sheds her skin and becomes a man or becomes a woman and we start to see how society treats women in that region and how men are treated. Or
it's period. Hey,
it's period. It's incredible. It was I think it was in my top 10 favorite movies of that year, which was 2022, and it's just beautiful. It's a gorgeous film. You should definitely check it out. So that's
what language do they speak?
Macedonian.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's done by a queer Australian filmmaker. He just did another movie, a Macedonian film. He's Macedonian by heritage.
Okay, but there obviously is a link.
Yeah. So then let's go with the last one. I wanted to say Barbarian, but I feel like enough of our people know about it because it's on Netflix. Barbarian is so good, but I'm going to go with an Iranian horror film called Under the Shadow.
Jesus.
That's on Netflix as well.
Okay.
And it's basically, a lot of people equate it to being the Iranian Babadook. I think it's better. And it's set during the 1980s in Iran, when Iran and Iraq were at war, and most of the film takes place in an apartment building. And the whole premise is that while this war is happening, a djinn, I think that's how you spell it, a jinn, which is in Western culture, we see that as a genie. That's what a jinn is. But often jinns, there's good jinns and there's bad jinns. There's they're like demons, basically. And this whole premise is that a jinn starts to haunt their apartment, or the mother at least thinks that this is happening, right? And it's almost like a mixture of Repulsion and Babadook and stuff like that. And it is just a phenomenal film. It's also very short. I think it's less than 80 minutes. And it's short, it's concise, it's creepy, it's just incisive. It's so good.
And what's it called again?
Under the Shadow. It's on Netflix.
Okay. Oh, cool.
And it's
this is exactly what we wanted, which is like, there's obvious ones.
Yes.
Yeah.
And those get plastered to you. Even Netflix says, here's your Halloween films. And Disney's doing the same. They're like, here's your Halloween films. They're not going to put a weird fucking Iranian movie in that list. So that's where Perrin comes in.
Yeah. I mean, look, I've got a whole list here of other stuff, but we will keep it down to 5.
No, thank you. I think that's
But those
exactly
are ones that
what
are
we
available
needed.
right now. Check them out.
lovely, man.
Nice. As a little addition to some spooky season stuff, we've done our movies, our recommendations. I thought I'd recommend some spooky video games.
All right.
Because that's my preferred horror experience. I
Horror
like
video game is
horror
great.
video games more than I
Yeah.
like horror movies.
Wild.
Just for some reason, like the interactiveness of them and like
It makes sense.
Yeah.
I feel
I just
more
enjoy
into it.
it.
It's
Yeah.
more what's the word when you're in something?
Immersive.
Immersive, that's
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
But also
I like it.
interesting that you can carve out your version of the horror.
yeah.
Like your
Yeah, it's true.
decisions can lead to things as opposed to a film being like,
Yes.
jump now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are your choices?
So, I mean, we got to include a Resident Evil.
Oh, of
It's like-
course.
it's like the all-time
Okay.
horror genre. I think I'd go with Resident Evil 4.
Oh, that's a lot of people regard that
Just-
as the best one.
Yes.
And of
Yeah.
course, we're talking about the games here. We're not
Yes.
talking about the
We're not talking about like
movies.
the Mila Jovovich
We're
films.
talking about
These
the
are-
actual games.
which have almost nothing to do with each other.
Wild.
So they actually very recently remade Resident Evil 4. They've kind of been remaking all the
Yeah,
Resident
the
Evil
second
games.
one as well,
They did
yeah.
2 and 3. 2 is also great.
Yeah, 2's really good.
But 4 is just kind of like, it's such an influential game. There were so many games after it that like picked cues from from it,
They-
horror or otherwise.
Didn't they change like their whole? Because I haven't played the fourth one, but I know they changed the whole how you play it.
So
like,
the early Resident Evil games were all like fixed camera.
Yes,
They looked almost
yeah.
like security camera type
Yeah.
things where the camera would be up in the corner and you would move your character around with tank. They call it tank controls.
Yeah.
This was one where they switched it to third person.
Okay.
So your camera's behind the character and follows them
him,
around.
yeah.
And it kicked off a ton of games that went
Yeah.
like followed the same route. They very recently remade it.
yeah,
10 out of 10 recommendation.
Really?
It's an
Okay.
incredible
great
game.
remake. Eh? Did you,
Yeah.
did you play the VR one?
No. They did Resident Evil 7 in VR, right?
Yeah, it was the I think
7
the
and
one
8,
with
I
like the
think.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yes, that was
family.
7. Yeah. Also a really good game.
Yeah, so I had the VR set.
Oh, sick. 7 was also like a big
Very
That must
change.
be fucking scary.
It's fucking terrifying.
because
yeah.
it's all in like sound design.
Yeah, no, I was shitting my pants the whole
Yes.
time. Like, I actually stopped playing because I was like, this is too much. Like,
7 was also like a big change up because they went from third to first person.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It
That
must
game
be interesting
is-
making those decisions.
Yeah.
yeah.
Like how does this best serve like the story we're telling and the mood we want to go for in
But
these
like,
games?
sorry to detract, but
Yeah.
I remember Hideo Kojima was doing, it was a Resident Evil game, wasn't it?
He was
With,
doing a Silent Hill game.
Yes, that was
PT.
that. I remember that trailer was
Yes.
fucking crazy. It was a playable trailer,
Yeah.
but the whole thing takes place in like 2 corridors.
It's literally like a circular. You just go around the
Yeah,
same
and
corridor
things
in like a
change.
loop over and over.
Playable
and it changes.
trailer.
Yeah, they called it PT, which is playable trailer, because the game was still in like very early development, but they wanted to
How did they
announce
release
it
a playable trailer?
as a demo. You just download it. You
Yeah.
can't actually get it anymore. It's
You
been pulled
download it
from,
onto your console.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
this was
So
only
you
on
just-
PlayStation 4.
Yeah,
You can't get it anymore. It's why if you go to like eBay and that sort of thing, you can buy old PlayStation 4s
that's
That
crazy.
and have it
on there.
installed, and they go
That's
for like
nuts.
hundreds of dollars.
Because that was highly so. Norman Reedus was going to be in
Yes.
it. He was from Walking Dead. He's
Yeah,
Daryl
yeah.
Dixon.
Yeah.
And it was Hideo Kojima. He was
Mm-hmm.
doing it, but that was with Konami. And then Konami got rid of him.
Yeah.
And then he left and did his own thing. I think that's why they pulled it
Yeah.
entirely.
But so the actual game that this was meant to be the trailer for never happened.
Yeah, which is such a shame.
Okay, so this is like
No.
the only thing people have. It's funny
Yes.
what people kind of collect or find valuable.
Yeah.
But it makes sense that if you have this incredible trailer that resulted in something that never happened.
Yeah. It's wild.
It's the only-
terrifying,
It's
eh?
the only thing
Yeah.
you have.
It's one of the scariest
Okay.
things of like
They
experience.
they just brought out a remake of Silent Hill 2 like
Yeah,
a few weeks
yeah,
ago.
yeah.
It just came out.
Have you played it yet?
No. I buy games when they go on sale.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
But speaking of games that were influenced by Resident Evil 4, Dead Space
Dead Space is
is
so
another-
good.
I-
Oh my
it's probably
god.
it's Dead Space 2 is probably my favorite game of all time. But they just brought out
Incredible.
a remake of Dead Space of the original Dead Space about 2 or 3 years ago.
yeah.
Like again, incredible game. Very Resident Evil, very Alien
Yeah.
inspired. This is a sci-fi horror this
Zombies
time
in
around.
space.
Yeah, basically zombies. It's like it also like very
So
kind of
scary.
2001-y because there's like an ancient artifact that is
Yes,
like
yeah.
fucking up people's brains and then creating
Oh
these
my
mutants.
god, it's so
It's
good.
nice. It's nice seeing the freedom for game makers to
Mm.
release their own movies again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to release their own games
Yeah.
again, because in movies that's a very difficult thing to
Yes. Yeah.
do,
Yeah.
and almost not done.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think.
Or it's even like slightly more frowned upon. You remake a classic movie, people are like, oh, this is unnecessary.
Yeah.
But people
But a lot of the
remaking
time-
their own stuff. That
Yeah.
also like just doesn't
Yes.
happen.
Yeah.
But for some reason, like remaking classic video games is a little more like accepted.
It's allowed,
I think
yeah.
because like the difference between the two is so much bigger.
Yeah.
Like the fundamentals of filmmaking haven't changed that much. So if you remake a movie,
Exactly.
how different can you actually make
Yeah,
it? But
I
video
agree.
games have changed so much within the last like even 10 years.
Yeah, you're updating the graphics, you're
Yeah.
updating the gameplay, the interface. Like I know Konami are remaking not horror, but they're remaking Snake Eater. the
Yes,
third
Metal Gear Solid 3.
which is my favorite Metal Gear.
really.
That and the first one. But like, yeah, I agree with you. I think remaking video games is a different story. I know sometimes they lose the magic
yes.
of it.
Yeah.
But like, I never played the Dead Space remake.
It's really freaking
Oh,
good.
it's-
it's
okay, you
very
recommend
similar.
it
They've
then.
like made a few like quality of life changes
Yeah.
to like improve things here and there.
Yeah.
But like It looks incredible. The
Yeah.
basic gameplay is still the same. They've kind of changed it because Isaac Clarke is the main character. He never speaks in the original game.
Yes, I remember.
But now they've
yeah.
changed it. So like in 2 and 3, he did speak. So they've changed
Yes,
it in
yeah.
3, so they've added a bunch of dialogue.
Oh,
and
that's
that sort of
cool.
thing, yeah.
I like that.
What do you
Yeah.
mean by quality of life?
Just little improvements that like make gameplay a little easier to do. Like a lot
Yeah.
of like mechanics in games have become like outdated and they're just a little more clunky and
Yeah,
harder
exactly.
to interact with. Like for example, Resident Evil 4 in the original one, whenever you aimed your gun, you couldn't move. You couldn't walk. At all.
Oh,
It would lock you
jeez,
in
that's
place, so you'd have to
annoying,
do
yeah.
that. So now they've changed it so when you're aiming your gun, you can still walk. Like little changes like that.
Oh, that makes a
Okay.
huge
Yeah.
difference.
That
Yeah.
makes sense.
And then I have to recommend. So if you're looking for Alien Romulus, did this thing where it was like
There
a
you go.
sequel to
I was
Alien,
waiting for this.
where it was a sequel to Alien that also tied into Prometheus. But if you want something that I think does it better, Alien Isolation
so good.
is incredible, dude.
Okay, so
It
this is
also
the game Alien Isolation.
Yes.
It
So-
exists in the world of Alien.
Yes, very much.
Yeah.
So this is
So
also
good.
acts as a sequel to the original Alien, where you now play as Amanda Ripley, who is
Yeah.
Ellen Ripley's daughter, who they've found, or there's like a crew that's claiming that they found like basically the black box, so to speak, of the ship that blew up. Because the whole thing is no one knows what happened to the Nostromo and happened to that whole
Yeah.
crew until the events of Aliens.
Yes.
Which is
yeah.
like 50 years later or something after the
Yeah.
original. But now they say, we've got this thing, we know what happened to it. So Amanda Ripley now goes to this other space station
Yes, yeah.
to like to bring this thing back so they can find out what happened to her mother and the original crew and everything. And of course, aliens get involved.
Yeah.
Or an alien. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
there's
it's
one
an alien.
alien that's like stalking you on this ship.
That's what I loved about Alien Isolation
Yes.
is that, like you said, it did better than what Romulus did.
Yeah.
Is that like it really felt it got the assignment. You know what I mean? Like
Interesting.
that's for
Some
me
things are
is
some things are built for
Yeah.
movies, some things are built for
the
games.
Yeah.
The game is you literally just running and hiding from this alien, and
'Cause
like
you can't kill it.
yeah, and you also the thing is you never know where it is as
Yeah.
well. Like you can guess where it is.
You can like hear it occasionally in like air
yeah,
ducts and
but
that
like
sort of
every
thing,
now and
yeah.
then you'll get swiped up by the
Yeah.
alien, and then it's like game over. Like
Yeah.
you obviously go back from your checkpoint, but like
Mhm.
it's so fucking good. Yeah,
Yes.
Okay.
I knew you were gonna. I was waiting for it. I'm
There's
like,
also a DLC for it
oh really?
where you basically play the original movie.
That's
It's
cool.
got all the original players.
That's
Ellen
very
Ripley.
cool.
They even brought back a bunch of like
What's
the
so
actors
cool.
that are still alive.
What is
Wow.
DLC?
Downloadable content. So it's like it's just like
an add-on.
adding
Yeah, it adds extra story.
add
or
extra
something.
features or extra campaigns and that sort of
Yeah.
thing to games
Okay.
that you download.
That's a good
But
picks,
yeah, I
man.
love Alien Isolation. man.
Yeah, it's really
Yo, so good.
It's amazing. Like you guys have a whole different experience to
Yeah.
Alien than what I do, where I
Yes.
just watch the movies.
Yeah.
You're like, oh.
You're so much more immersed in the world as a
Yeah.
result of playing these games.
Yes.
Yeah, I know they made a VR DLC
Yes.
pack on that, and that I haven't played that. That must be
Cool.
fucking
Yeah,
terrifying.
that would be scary as hell.
Yeah,
All right, boys. That was lovely.
that was
Yeah.
lovely.
I'm gonna miss you guys next week,
Oh,
but I'm not going to be thinking of you. I'm going to be on an island,
yeah.
having the all you can eat, all you can drink package.
Yeah,
In the
the
Maldives.
all inclusive.
forget-
Yeah,
I'll never forget being in a resort in Mauritius once, and it was the same thing. It was that all you can
yeah.
drink, all you can eat package, and there were these other South Africans
Yeah.
on the other end of the pool that just had the same joke. And they fucking loved it every time, which was when it was the one Oak's turn. He goes, no, Oak's, this one's on me. This one's on me. And everyone loves it. And then 20 minutes later, Oak's like, don't worry, guys. Don't have to pay. I'll pay. This one's on me. This one's on me.
pay.
Because it's all inclusive.
Yeah.
So I will make that joke at least once
Okay.
to Leslie. But yeah, just a little break. Nice
good to
well-deserved
hear,
little
man.
break.
Yeah.
And yeah. So yeah. Our home base is thevideostore.co.za. And come on back. On Tuesdays is our clerks chat, where it's like this. It's just us. And the occasional Thursday will be a guest episode every now and again.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Cool.
Thanks for the
See
time.
you soon.
And we'll see you soon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.